Hi everyone, I'm Corey, and welcome to a special video edition of Talking Manpower. Today, I've got a very special guest. I've got Miss Diane Randon. She's the senior official performing the duties of the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. Miss Randon, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
So, I understand that you're in this role from the Assistant Chief of Staff of the Army for Installation Management. What is your role there?
My permanent assignment is as the deputy to the Assistant Chief of Staff for Installation Management. And essentially, I am the deputy to the 3-star Installation Management Advisor to the Chief of Staff. And so in my role, we have the portfolio of installation management, which is about the 3rd largest funding portfolio for all of Army. And it's been a great assignment, and I've been quite passionate about it. And it was my first assignment in installation management, and I've embraced it.
So how did you come to be in your current role as the acting ASAM&RA?
Well, that's an interesting story. So there I was, perfectly happy as the deputy AXM, and we were getting ready for a political administration change. And so with the political appointees departing their positions by the 20th of January, permanent SES leadership needed to step into several of these roles across the Army headquarters. So I received a phone call, and I was requested to come into the position the senior official performing the duties of. And at first I resisted. Because, as I said, I was perfectly happy as the deputy AXM, and so the folks who wanted me to come downstairs persisted, and so I came to feel that it was the right move because I feared it. It was uncomfortable to think about. I had sweat dripping down the back of my back, and I thought, okay, these are all the right signs that this is the right position to challenge me. So anyway, I reported to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs beginning of January on a professional development, and in retrospect, it's the best thing that's ever happened.
So explain to me, now that you've been in the role of a couple of months, a little bit about your role as the ASAM&RA.
So when I first came down at the beginning of January, I was detailed into the role of principal deputy because that position had been vacant for several months. And so I had about 3 weeks with Honorable Wada before she departed. And so at the time she left, I moved from the role of acting principal deputy to acting as the senior official performing the duties of. And so in that role, I'm the advisor to the secretary on all things human capital, whether it's military, civilian, health affairs, readiness, reserve affairs. It's a broad portfolio, and actually I'm continuing to learn it because it is so vast.
So I know that you really enjoyed your experience of at AXM, but what's this experience been like so far at ASAM&RA?
Coming into this role on a developmental assignment has just been, quite frankly, profound because I was in the deputy AXM role for about 4.5 years, and so I really felt like I had, gotten stable. I was very comfortable with that portfolio. I felt like I had overcome an immense learning curve in understanding installation management, and so equally going down to M&RA, it was terrifying. I don't know anything about that portfolio. However, I embraced the journey of being back on an immense learning curve, and it's just been such a valuable experience to stretch and grow and learn something new and be challenged by something new.
So what have been some of your challenges in this position?
Well, there's been immense mission challenges from a leadership perspective, I guess, answering the question in that regard. Quite frankly, my challenge was humbly accepting that I wasn't a technical expert. I really value I value technical competency. I really value being very knowledgeable and very steeped in understanding about the functional aspect of a portfolio. And none of this has been my area of expertise. I was a comptroller for decades, and then I moved over to installation management, and coming into M&RA, it was very new. And so it was really, probably the most profound thing is being able to release the reins of the technical aspects and relying on the team and using my leadership and figuring out what leadership tools to use to successfully lead that team.
You've mentioned a couple of times that you're here on a developmental. So why do you think developmental opportunities are important for career growth, be it at, the basic action officer, entry level, intern level, up to staff action officer, up to senior executive? Why are developmental opportunities so important for career growth?
I look at professional development really as temporary assignment. So, so just to, kind of put definition around how I think of a developmental assignment, it's usually temporary in nature. So maybe a 6 to 12 month detail, and then you revert back to a permanent assignment. Some could look at professional development as maybe, stepping into another assignment for a year, 18 months, and then moving on. But in the context of something temporary that you revert back to in a permanent assignment, as a senior leader, I often get folks coming to me wanting to be mentored or, just supervisory, in my supervisory function, giving feedback and counsel to my team. I always subscribe to professional development being something very powerful. And the reasons why are, it really does kind of mitigate complacency. And so often when we get into a position where we've been there maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 years, sometimes folks are in jobs for a very long time, there's an aspect of becoming very comfortable with what you do. And sometimes that can lead to complacency of maybe seeing one way to do something. And so having an opportunity to professionally develop gives you an opportunity to kind of challenge yourself, do something different, learn something new, be exposed to different people. So diversity of people gives you exposure to different ways of seeing things. And it's free. It's like the best insurance ever. You can go to a professional development assignment and come back to your permanent role. And often what happens is you go to that assignment and you have your aperture open to something new and different, which leads to, maybe being inspired to move on to, a different career, a different assignment, a different career path.
So what would your advice be to someone who's seeking a developmental opportunity, and how can they best prepare for it?
So if someone's seeking a professional development opportunity, I'd ask them why. So sometimes folks just think it's the right next logical thing to do. So I think you really have to be thoughtful about why you want the opportunity, because you're going to invest your time and you're going to invest the time of the gaining organization who accepts you for a detail, and the losing organization has to cover the gap in your absence. So it is a big investment. So I would challenge the person to figure out why they think they need to be professionally developed. Could be many reasons, but from there, then we can have a conversation about how you prepare. So you should always be very forthcoming with your supervisor about what opportunities you seek and what you're doing to seek out those opportunities. So what network have you created that potentially gives you access? And be very forthcoming when you have a chance to talk to leadership. Often folks come to me and say they're looking for an opportunity, and I help them find a fit because I understand their rationale, and I think their capabilities would serve in a really good way to another organization where there could be some synergistic effect of benefit. So you want to benefit from the professional development, and you want the organization to benefit from you being there. So how do you prepare? Be very transparent about your intentions. Develop a network of mentors and relationships that can help foster opportunities to help you get there.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I know, and we're going to talk about AXM again, which I know is a topic.
I'm happy to talk about AXM.
You're very happy to talk about. So from my understanding, you use Manpower analysts AXM, and how do you use them, and what value do you think they bring to your organization?
So we do use Manpower analysts, and the reason I value them so much, from a personal journey, I'm a CP11. I started as a CP11 careerist, and served in several roles on the resourcing side with regards to funding. And I always felt like, the really great complement to that is the manpower focus, because manpower and funding together have a holistic resource picture. So I leveraged manpower analysts immensely in my career as I was working on projects. So when I came to AXIM, Assistant Chief of Staff Installation Management, there's a couple of different ways we needed manpower analysts. We had a very complicated way our organization was documented. And so it was on a couple of different TDAs. It was confusing for senior leaders to understand. It was confusing for our own folks to understand. And so I greatly valued having a very competent manpower analyst be able to correctly document our organization. And that was exponentially helpful in moving through several of these recent delayering and efficiencies tasks, downsizing tasks. Secondly, an enormous way we use manpower analysts, and I've had the privilege to serve in 3 different leader roles in AXIM, is in the resources directorate. The installations portfolio is about we kind of run neck to neck with training, but it's about the 3rd largest top line of resources in all Army. And there's a significant contribution to those resources with regards to manpower. So it just seems like we're not really looking at the full picture if we don't look at the manpower inside that installations portfolio. And so I've worked to have that manpower capability on the installations team, because I think it helps us see ourselves, and it helps us explain our requirements with regards to installation resources.
So let's switch gears again, and you've mentioned this a couple of times. You've talked about leadership. So I'm very curious to know what your leadership philosophy is.
So I don't really have a succinct expression of my philosophy. However, there are several attributes to leadership that I feel are very, very important, and it's kind of evolved over time. I truly embrace the concept of servant leadership. I really believe that as a leader, I'm in service to the team, trying to get the mission accomplished, and so every day, the focus is, what should I be doing in the greater support of the team? Whether it's giving direction, being decisive, and quite frankly, decisiveness, I think, is a very important aspect of leadership, because it is necessary at times. And then trying to keep the team gelled together. I also believe clear communication is absolutely essential. And clear communication really avoids so many other things that leaders have to deal with. And so if I clearly communicate to you as an employee or as a customer or as a leader or whatever position, stakeholder that you serve in, that we're having a dialogue, if I'm clearly communicating, it can avoid confusion or just perceptions that I might be saying something and not, walking that talk. And so clear communication is a very passionate element, I guess, of my leadership philosophy. I also believe that customer focus is really important. And I tend to describe it as a platinum level. So it's not really about, providing customer service in such a way of what I would want as a customer. It's providing customer service in such a way of what you would want as a customer. And when you change that mindset, it really does get to a point that the leadership is wanting to create a relationship with you to anticipate what you want and to know what you want, because I've developed that over time. And then, quite frankly, a part of my leadership philosophy is that I should be of the mindset that I'm growing leaders every day, because I think talent management and succession planning is really important, and it's really been enjoyable from the standpoint that coming into the MNRA as a organization, that's what we're responsible for. And so some of the things that I'm passionate about as a leader, we actually have the ability to shape for Army.
What can someone who wants to be an Army scene leader, and this can be at kind of any level of the structure, anywhere from being an intern to an action officer to that GS-15 who's looking to take the next step, what can someone do to prepare for the opportunity to be an SES?
So that's a frequent question of folks who come to be mentored. That is usually intuitive. If they're at a certain level and they aspire to be an SES, then what does it take? And the first thing I would offer is that whatever you aspire to be, you need to start on day one. And so it's not about developing those qualifications as a GS-15. It's about embracing the mindset as a GS-5, 7, whatever level you start at. I take pride in sharing that I started as a clerk type as GS-4. I got to do that several times. It was a school of hard knocks, getting up the rung and coming back down again and finding ways to develop a career for myself. And I think it's more about the behaviors and attributes that you start early on, about not compromising your values. We embrace them as Army values, always showing up consistently, taking the tough projects. I mean, you can't stand out if you take the path of least resistance. So do the things that are hard, and if you do them successfully, that's going to distinguish you from your peers. Seek continuous education. The Army is very generous with education and training opportunities. We offer programs where you can seek degrees. Army put me through my master's program. Find ways to distinguish yourself from the others, and lean in with leadership. I tell folks that you don't have to be a supervisor to lead. There's influential leadership all the time, whether you're a part of a team or emerge to be a team leader or take charge of a project's due. Because at the end of the day, everything that you're accumulating is accumulating towards your reputation. And that goes a long way in folks wanting to be around you or wanting to stay away from you. And if you journey to be a leader, you have to take on the tough roles, and you have to stand out, and you have to continue to figure out how to remain competitive.
That's all the questions I have, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
So it's, and I've been in this position now for, about 4 months. And so in retrospect, probably what stands out to me the most is that one of the things I pride myself on is kind of, walking the talk and leading by example, is that I describe how beneficial a professional development assignment can be, and yet I was reluctant to embrace it myself when the opportunity came knocking at my door. And it was out of fear, and it was out of anxiety about how I would perceive showing up to, perform in this role. So I guess what I'd like to add is that we should always, that fear is okay, having anxiety is okay, but, just having the courage to just kind of step in and try is about all we can expect of you. And so I'll continue, when folks come to me and ask me what they should do, I'll continue to tell them to embrace opportunities. And sometimes they come when you least expect it, but keep the door open. And because it's been an amazing opportunity once again, I have been passionate about serving in this Army, and I've loved being a DA civilian in this Army. And so my final thought is continue to embrace the professional development career journey that you're on, And senior leaders are here to help mentor, coach, and guide those that want to continue to stand out and perform in a successful way in our Army.
Well, Ms. Randon, I know you have an extremely busy schedule, so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.